Yep, there it goes. Now it's live. Yeah, we're good. We're live.
Are we live on YouTube? That is the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are. We are live on YouTube. It automatically goes to YouTube. Let me go to my screen because I am subscribed to you, so it will come up in my.
I'm actually also going to go to my YouTube channel and it says we are live.
Good.
This way it'll be easier to check the chat.
Oh, let me turn my sound off so I don't have an echo.
It says we are live.
Echo right there.
Easier to check the chat. All right, how many listeners? Oh, we got 3 people watching. That means we have 1 person watching. What is up, y'all? What is going on? Welcome to the S2E1 podcast. Give us 1 second here.
Season 2?
Season 2, baby.
Season 2.
Season motherfucking 2.
Hopefully we'll get further than we did this time.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Usually they'll be on the 3Y Podcast YouTube channel. However, we're having technical issues tonight, so we are going to do it on Triple Two's channel here. If we are having trouble with the regular channel, this is going to be our backup as well as my channel. So just go on YouTube, type in 3Y Podcast, be the one with the Earnhardt Style 3 on there. That'd be ours right there. Go ahead and leave subscribe to that if you want to listen to us every week. We're going to do it. Well, it won't be this next week. Well, maybe next week, depending on my work schedule, of course. But once the racing season starts, we're going to do it every Sunday after each race. There's going to be a post-race show. If it's Saturday night, if it's a Saturday race, we're still going to do it on Sundays. For the simple fact, it just kind of goes with my work schedule. Triple Two, I think we agreed to that a while back ago. This is what we're going to do for this season. Hopefully we'll get more out that way, and hopefully we'll just get I want to see it grow. I really want to see this this channel grow and see it
Yeah, I want to see this thing grow. I mean, obviously I haven't made a video on my YouTube channel in like a year, but last time I did a random live stream, I got like 12, 15 people on with me.
Oh crap! I put the Hangouts link. I don't want to do that because that'll mean.
Okay, we got 1 viewer. We apparently have 1 viewer. If you're viewing this right now, please let us know in the comment section down below. We'd like to have 1 or 2 viewers. Oh, what is up, Redneck Gamers? What is going on, Redneck Gamers? My good old pal, Mr. Skeleton. What is going on? What is going on? I'm proud to be back on this channel with my buddy Brent Tannick right now. For the 3Y podcast. First and foremost, got to give a shout out to my boy Redneck Gamers. He has been a trooper for this channel, Redneck Gamers. Go give him a subscribe. Mr. Skeleton 350, what is up, my man? What is up, my man? You are rocking it out as well. So we're going to get this party started. We got some viewers on this thing. And that's basically what I wanted. I wanted to get a couple of viewers on this thing. We're making our 2018 predictions. We are making our 2018 predictions today. Oh, okay. You used to be Conrad Fisher. I remember you, man. You're the best. You rock it out, man. You rock it out. Redneck Gamers. Are you going with Truex? Basically, me and my boy Brent Tannick here in season 2 of the 3Y podcast. We used to do a podcast on the 3Y podcast channel, and now we are rocking it out. Just for technical purposes, we are going to be rocking it out today on my channel, so we get a couple more viewers. Any questions you guys want to ask us, we will definitely debate them down below, so do not hesitate to ask us questions. Leave us comments. We came with our own questions, and we like to get your answers as well. We're probably going to stay until 9:15 Eastern time.
Make an hour 15 minutes is what we usually try to do. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I was just throwing things in as you talk. Yeah, we usually try to go for an hour 15 minutes. Like Triple Two said, tonight we're on his channel for technical reasons. Usually it will be on the 3Y Podcast channel, so go leave a subscribe to that. Just type in 3Y Podcast. It should be like the first or second one on there. It's only got like 15 subscribers right now. So leave a subscribe on that one. You'll get put notifications on so you know when we go live. It'll be on Sundays after this. If we do not do one next week, that's still up for debate depending on work schedules and conflicting schedules and everything, seeing how everything figures out. But for sure, we will have one after each race, starting after the Daytona 500.
Okay, now I gotta ask. We gotta answer this question because my buddy Redneck Gamers and Mr. Skeleton 350 both are asking where do we think Ryan Truex will end up? Because if y'all listening didn't know, he got dumped and he is now looking for a ride. He had a spectacular season, didn't get a win, but took a very small team to a lot of great races, a lot of great finishes. I'm going to start off with you. Where do you think Ryan Truex ends up in 2018 if he ends up anywhere at all?
I think he's no doubt getting a ride. I'm saying that right now. Will the question is, will he have a better ride or not? That's up for debate. Series where it's just got to kind of take what's open right now, whether it's better or worse for you. It's just kind of whatever's up for grabs at this point. So I don't know if he's going to get it right or not. I really haven't been paying attention to what rides are open in the trucks, what rides are not for 2018. I think he will get a ride. I think he'd be priority over other drivers that are looking for a ride currently, especially drivers coming from the K&N series, drivers like that. But I think it'll just really have to depend on the place here in the next couple weeks before Daytona.
Here's the deal with Ryan Truex, and anyone who's watching this knows I cannot stand Martin Truex Jr. and I cannot stand Ryan Truex Jr. because they're both from New Jersey, and I can't stand New Jersey. I get banned from every place I go to in New Jersey, so I hate New Jersey. But long story short, my man, if you're a fan of Ryan Truex, he did a hell of a job in that truck series. He deserves a ride, and love the guy, hate the guy. He deserves a ride. I'd like to see him back in the truck series. I'd like to see him drive for a team like a ThorSport or a team along those lines. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So as of right now, I don't see much happening for Ryan Truex because of the simple fact that a lot of big time rides are taken, and we're less than a month away from Speed Weeks, or we're a little over a month away from Speed Weeks. At Daytona. So what's going to happen to Ryan Truex? It is too hard to say right now, but he is still a guy who has never reached victory lane, and he struggles with getting primary sponsorship. And those are two big things right now that make it almost impossible to get a ride. If you haven't proven yourself as a winner and you don't have a sponsorship to carry yourself on, it is going to be very hard to get a ride. So as far as Ryan Truex is concerned, I think he ends up doing part-time deals, semi-part-time deals with the Xfinity Series, semi-part-time deals with the Truck Series. I don't think he gets anything even close to being a championship caliber ride. That's just my thought process. I know he's got a lot of supporters and a lot of fans. He's selling a lot of merchandise. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been modeling some of that stuff. So Ryan Truex Jr. definitely could get a ride. I just don't see anything big happening. So if you are a fan of his, I don't see anything big happening. Before we get into our next topic, shout out to my man Alex _is_an N. He says, yo, he's been a long time subscriber of the channel. Thank you for the support. We got 5 people watching right now, which is pretty amazing since I haven't uploaded in like a year. Let's see, Mr. Skeleton. What were you going to say, bud?
I was going to say we were talking about almost getting closer to Speed Weeks. We're actually exactly 45 days until the Daytona 500 on February 18th. So 45 days. You got to remember so of course 2 days. You count 2 days from that. So 43 days until the truck race. 44 days until the Xfinity Series race, Daytona, the season kickoffs. That's not including before like the duels and the shootout, which of course I do watch and I'm excited for. But
all right, I gotta say one thing. First and foremost, shout out to the people watching this right now. I will be taking a road trip to the Daytona 500. I will be driving about 18 hours to the Daytona 500. If y'all want to see a vlog of my long ass trip down to Daytona, let me know because I will vlog that whole trip. And I will also stop in my homeland of Georgia and do some cool shit. So if y'all want to see some vlogs, let me know. Now we got a question here from my man Alex. Alex,
How
and he
about them
wants to know.
Bulldogs?
Oh, okay. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. And you know what even makes me happier? My man Donald J. Trump is gonna be in the building for the Bulldogs and the Crimson Tide, and my man Donald J. Trump is gonna see a Bulldog beatdown on them Alabama Crimson Tide boys. Georgia all the way, baby. My homeland, Georgia, boy. Now let's get back to my boy Alex, who wants to know our thoughts on Richard Petty Motorsports moving to Chevrolet. Now I got a couple of interesting things, and I've been really dying to make a video about this whole Bubba Wallace situation. First and foremost, my thoughts on RPM moving to Chevy. It's obvious that Ford right now, and shout out to my boy Alex for asking the question, but Ford is the bottom of the barrel right now. All right, Toyota's number one as far as power and just ingenuity right now. Toyota's number one. Chevrolet, with this move to the Camaros, are definitely going to be number two, and Ford is left in the dust. And Richard Petty Motorsports, a team that needed a stronger alliance because their alliance with Roush Fenway was basically nothing. They needed a stronger alliance, so they moved to an alliance with RCR. My whole thing with this Richard Petty Motorsports move is acquiring Bubba Wallace. And I know you're going to probably disagree with this, Brent Tanik, but I just don't understand this move to go with Bubba Wallace. You have a guy in Bubba Wallace who has proven himself in the Truck Series, but he has done nothing, next to nothing, as far as I'm concerned, in the Xfinity Series. And you have a guy who has absolutely no sponsorship on his back. How do you bring a guy into an average or around average ride that doesn't have a win in in an Xfinity car and doesn't have sponsorship on his back? I can think of 5 other guys right now who have been left in the dust and have proven themselves as winners either in the Xfinity or Cup Series and have some sort of sponsorship. This whole Bubba Wallace thing just doesn't make sense to me. And let me know what you guys think down below. I think the partnership with Chevrolet definitely is a desperation move by Richard Petty because you have a team in the 43 who has not performed over the last few years. And I think that it's just because it's a shitty team. I don't think it's because Eric Almirola was a bad driver. So you have a situation with Bubba Wallace now, a driver who doesn't have a sponsor, a driver who hasn't won an Xfinity Series car, and now you have him going to a team to average his 20th position. I'm making the bold prediction that I don't think Bubba Wallace is going to win a race. I don't even think Bubba Wallace is even going to get top 25 in the Xfinity in the Cup Series. I don't even think he's going to finish top 25th in points. But you can let me know your thoughts on that.
Let me tell you right now, I do not think that's a bold prediction. I do honestly think that is a legit, real thing that will probably happen. I don't think he's gonna. I think he may have a little over top 25. I don't think he's going. He's definitely not going to be in playoff contention this year at all, unless he wins unless he wins a plate race. That's the only way I can see it. And it's two things that are really going against him right now. I mean, you kind of went on both. One, RPM is struggling. RPM is not the team. Like obviously, RPM is not the top team for Ford. That obviously would go to Penske, who have no association with Ford, or who has no association with Petty. And the other thing they have against them is Bubba Wallace just does not have Cup experience. He had some races when he drove for Petty last year after Almirola got hurt, but that's about it. His best finish was like what, 20 something, 15th or something like that.
Here's my big problem with Bubba Wallace, and I have a good buddy, Charlie NASCAR, who's actually the biggest Bubba Wallace fan, and I got to give him a congratulations because his driver has been moved up. But a lot of people don't like when I say this, but the fact of the matter is, Bubba Wallace drove on the Xfinity Series team. His rookie year, he was on the Xfinity Series team that won the championship with Chris Buescher. Okay, so he was on a championship organization, and any organization that wins a championship, I consider the best organization that year. Okay, I consider Furniture Row the best organization, Furniture Row and Joe Gibbs because of their alliance, the best organization of 2017 in Cup. That year, Chris Buescher won the championship. I considered Roush Fenway Racing the best Xfinity Series team. So a lot of people are saying Bubba Wallace, you can't harp on what Bubba Wallace did in the Xfinity Series because he was on a bad team. Bubba Wallace was not on a bad team in the Xfinity Series team. He was on the same team that won the championship. So Chris Buescher not only won the championship, he won multiple races that year. And Bubba Wallace didn't do jack squat. And again, you have a guy who basically got bumped out of the Xfinity Series that was performing pretty well, but he didn't have a win and he didn't have a sponsor. So that's going to be the same problem for Bubba Wallace when it comes to the Cup Series. You have a team that isn't a top team, and they do not have a sponsorship of Bubba Wallace. Now, Air Force is coming back, only for a couple of races. Smithfield is teetering on coming back, but again, that would only be for a couple of races. STP, only a couple of races. Why did Bubba Wallace get the ride if he has no sponsorship and he has no wins and no real experience in the Cup Series? It baffles my mind.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And
And I'll be honest here, and a lot of people don't like when I say it, but I think it has something to do with the diversity factor. Obviously, he is an African-American driver, and you look at some of the things that happened this year with the NFL, with Trump, with Donald J. Trump, who I absolutely love, Donald J. Trump, but he tweeted about NASCAR. And at the time, a lot of people viewed it as a racial kind of thing. And you didn't have an African-American driver really in the Cup Series at all. Obviously, you had the Mexican driver with Daniel Suarez and the Asian driver with Kyle Larson, but you didn't have an African-American driver. I think that this was something that was brought upon possibly by Brian France to say, hey, times are changing. There's a lot of criticism about our sport right now. Bubba Wallace is an up-and-coming driver. He's got a lot of fans. Do something, make a move, and I think that could be a part of what happened.
Okay, now you're getting me into a rant that I didn't expect to make on the 3Y podcast, especially tonight where we're talking about predictions for 2018. But I'm getting to it because I saw this a whole bunch, especially over this most recent offseason. And I think it has to do with the racial tensions going on right now, which unfortunately is happening, but it is happening. No, I can't deny that. So this has to do with people calling out NASCAR for not having an African-American driver because and that being NASCAR's fault. That's not NASCAR's fault.
And again, Mr. Skeleton 350 said, to be fair, Bubba finished P11 at Kentucky. Yeah, he finished P11 at Kentucky, and kudos to him.
Right.
But I was at that Pocono race. I sat there in those grandstands, his very first Cup Series race. I never, in the history of watching this sport for 20 years, I never saw anyone step into a Cup car and drive as bad and as horrible as Bubba Wallace did that day at Pocono. He sped on pit road, I think 5 or 6 times he sped on pit road. I mean, it was just an inexcusable race day for Bubba Wallace. I mean, you could have put me in that car on that day, and I couldn't have done worse. I mean, I think, and Alex in the chat is saying the Pocono race pit road killed him. I was at that race, and I kept saying, why does Bubba Wallace keep getting shuffled back? He sped on pit road like 5 or 6 times in a row, and I just kept saying to myself, why can't this guy, okay, maybe once or twice because of nervousness and inexperience, but 4 or 5 times on pit road, that is inexcusable. And okay, you got a P11 at Kentucky. That is not still good enough, in my opinion. Again, I'm going to try and make a whole video about this when I get the time, but there was a press conference at Homestead, Miami, where Brian France basically said one of the things he's looking forward to in 2018 is the diversity, quote-unquote diversity, with the African-American driver of Bubba Wallace. I truly believe that with the things going on with Donald Trump, with the NFL, with a lot of things going on, NASCAR, Brian France, Steve O'Donnell, Mike Helton, and those boys sent a message to the Cup Garage and said, we need to get Bubba Wallace in a full-time ride, no matter what ride it is, and no matter if he has sponsorship or not. And still to this day, there has not been one sponsor that has backed Bubba Wallace. He still has not won an Xfinity Series race, hasn't proved much in the Cup field, and yet he is still getting a full-time ride. And again, I'm nothing against the guy. He's a great guy, and one of the things he does have is a lot of fans. But what I will say is he has not proved himself as far as I'm concerned. He's a great truck driver, but he has not done anything in the Xfinity field. And you look at guys like Landon Castle, guys who have experience and have proven themselves. Okay, Landon Castle hasn't won a race in the Cup Series, but he's been around long enough. He's a guy who reminds me a lot like Alex Bowman, Landon Castle. And yet he doesn't have a ride starting in 2018. Landon Castle doesn't have a ride. Landon Castle can bring some sponsorships on. So again, I don't want to talk about this for 45 minutes because I'm going to make a video about it. But it's one of those things where I feel like Brian France and all those boys up top made a message to the Cup Series. And I have evidence backing this up and whatnot. It's just a feeling I have with all the things going on, but we can get into that at a later date. I
Theory.
want to take some. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm saying it's like a theory.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
theory. It's a big time theory. Yeah. I want to talk
yeah,
about some of the questions. I don't know if you can see the chat, but there's been some questions coming in. Um,
yeah. I can.
Mr. Skeleton 350 wants to know where do you think the 27 car is going in 2018? Now, this is an interesting question because Richard Childress was clearly very vocal about the fact that he wants someone to drive that car. And I have a couple of different options. I mean, he was very clear about him keeping that ride open. Obviously, Paul Menard is going to the 21 team, and it's just one of those things. It's like, when are they going to make a decision? Because we're getting close to February, and they haven't even been talking about a decision happening. Now, I want to talk about something that I really want to see happen. A guy I met last year, Jeffrey Earnhardt. I met Jeffrey Earnhardt last year. He's a hell of a great
Great dude.
guy. I met him up here in Pennsylvania at an auto racing show, and he is just a hell of a great guy, Jeffrey Earnhardt. And I don't know, if he has Hulu backed on him, if Hulu, and again, someone in the comment section might be able to tell us, is Hulu a Jeffrey Earnhardt sponsor? Or was that a sponsor that was strictly for the team he was driving for, Circle Sport? Because if it's a Jeffrey Earnhardt sponsor, wouldn't Richard Childress Racing want to keep the Earnhardt name in NASCAR? Throw Jeffrey Earnhardt on the 27 with some sponsorship from Hulu. I don't see what's wrong with that. Jeffrey Earnhardt, a driver who I think can really do wonders in a race car if he gets in the right equipment.
I know Starter's one. I know Starter is his sponsor. Starter followed with him when he was with BK Racing last in 2016, and he went with him in 2017 with Circle Sport TMG. So I know for a fact Starter is a sponsor with him. By the way, Starter has an awesome paint scheme with them. We're having the Earnhardt style paint scheme on that car.
So we got a couple of different people. We got Nicholas Steiner, who, shout out to Nick Steiner. He's been around the channel for a while. He claims that what he heard last was that Hulu was a Circle Sports sponsor,
It is.
and Redneck Gamers believes it's a Jeffrey Earnhardt sponsor. So I don't know.
It is absolutely a Circle Sport sponsor. It's
It's a Circle
absolutely a
Sports
Circle
sponsor.
Sport sponsor. And the reason why the reason I know this is for the simple fact that when Circle Sport signed with Hulu, I remember them specifically saying that they will be with the team. They did not say with the driver. That's a specific thing that they have in paperwork and in writing that they really do clarify for legal reasons. They sponsor with a team for a total of 5 years. That team is, or I'm pretty sure it was 5 seasons. This is like midway through the 2017 season when they first signed in, or it wasn't midway, it's like kind of within the first quarter of the series season, whatever. But whatever. And yes, I do remember them saying that they signed with a team. They would be with Circle Sport. However, I do not know if they were with Circle Sports division or TMG's division, because it's kind of like Stuart Haas Racing, where half the teams are assigned to Gene Haas, half the teams are assigned to Tony Stewart. When those two split, they kind of get half the rights to each to the team. So I don't know what's their deal with them. I don't even know if TMG or Circle Sports going to have a driver next year. Both teams are their individual teams now. Both teams could field their own different cars. Jeffrey Earnhardt has Starter, but one of those two has Hulu. I don't know which one.
And now here's the thing. Now I don't know if any of y'all out there have Hulu. I got like a free trial of it. And Jeffrey Earnhardt actually has a show on Hulu. And I gotta
Does he?
say, the show is fucking horrible. Now I like Jeffrey Earnhardt, but the show is fucking Preposterous. They got this little fucking hipster piece of trash interviewer who doesn't know two shits about racing to be Jeffrey Earnhardt's, I guess, I don't know, co-actor. She makes the show so freaking horrible that you can't even watch it. I mean, it's like if you want to, it's like that Daytona Day commercial. If people actually knew who NASCAR fans were and what appealed to NASCAR fans, they could actually get a lot of money. It's like, who are these people that they're hiring to work marketing and advertising for these companies? It's BS. But anyone who's watched Hulu or has Hulu, check out the show is called The Driver, and it's all about Jeffrey Earnhardt's career and how he got to where he is. It is a horrible show, and it's not because of Jeffrey Earnhardt. It's because of the shitty fucking people that Hulu put around him. And I said at that point, I said, I don't care if Hulu sponsors Earnhardt or not. I cannot support the company because of this fucking shitty show.
I gotta give a quick shout out to Astroth there. Astroth is one of my subscribers. He's actually a graphics designer. He's a really good graphics designer, and a really good guy too. So shout out to him right quick. If you guys need any graphics designs, go out and go talk to Astroth. He's not a sponsor or an advertiser or anything like that. Just wanted to give him a quick shout out because dude does great work.
All right, well, shout out to your boy Astrith. I'm gonna go back up in the chat and see if we have any other questions up here before we get into our own kind of predictions. Well, looking real quick. I don't see any other.
Yeah, I think it's about time to wrap up the question section anyway and get on to our main topics.
All right, now I'm gonna make a prediction here, guys. This is a prediction I've been making all season long. It's a bold prediction. It's a prediction that isn't very kind of friendly with the NASCAR community, but it is the fact that I truly believe that Alex Bowman and William Byron will both win in 2018 and Chase Elliott will not. Now, I want to get your prediction, your thoughts on that, because anyone who doesn't know Brent Tannick doesn't know that he is a huge Chase Elliott fan. I believe, and I'm making a prediction, that William Byron and Alex Bowman has impressed me. I don't care if Alex Bowman was doing 3 laps on iRacing. Alex Bowman is one of those guys from even his BK Racing days. He just fucking blew me away with the talent he has. So I'm saying Alex Bowman and William Byron will get a win in 2018, and Chase Elliott will go another season disappointing his fans and will not win a race.
Actually, I knew you were going to bring this up first. Of all your predictions, I knew you were going to bring this up first. And because of that,
hey, Redneck Gamers buys it. Right? Redneck Gamers put in the chat that he buys my prediction.
All right, well, I have here. It is.
Nicholas Steiner believes it too. We got okay. The fans know who's right here.
All right, well, okay. So you're willing to bet a little wager on this one? I'm willing to.
Of course. Look. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a gambling man.
I bet Chase Elliott will win in 2018 before Ryan Blaney will win for Penske.
Okay. Now that is a bold freaking prediction because Ryan Blaney is a hell of a talent. And Ryan Blaney's already won a race. Ryan Blaney has competed for more wins and has won a race more than Chase Elliott has. But all right. What track do you think Chase Elliott wins at?
I don't know for sure. I will tell you that I do not know for sure. I don't know. I don't know.
Early schedule Martinsville, getting some revenge on what happened to him.
But here's the part of the wager. If I win and Chase Elliott gets more wins than Blaney this year, then you have to change your Twitter bio and your Twitter picture for all the entire offseason from 2018 to 2019 for Hendrick Motorsports stuff.
Whoa. Okay. Now, wait. To be fair, I do respect Jimmy Johnson, so I would just put all Jimmy Johnson stuff. That ain't that bad.
It's got to be Hendrick Motorsports stuff though, not just Jimmy Johnson. It's got to have all 4 Hendrick drivers And the profile picture is got to be a face of Rick Hendrick.
Rick Hendrick I can deal with, as long as it's not Jeff Gordon. As long as it's not Jeff Gordon.
I
will never be able to support. I will never be able to support a driver from California who drives a rainbow flag car. I just cannot do it. I just cannot do it.
That's funny.
Cannot do it. I was born in the South, and I just cannot do it. I just cannot do it.
If you win and I lose, and Blaney gets a win before.
Okay, no. Here's what you gotta do. Here's what you gotta do. If I win, you have to put a picture of Danica Patrick and say, Danica Patrick. You have to say something along the lines in your bio that you are in love with Danica Patrick, and she is the greatest driver of all time, and you will do anything just to go out and get a cup of coffee with Danica Patrick.
For the entire off season.
For the entire off season, Danica freaking Patrick.
Okay, and that's in the bio.
Okay. We have a bold prediction here from Redneck Gamers that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will win all 4 play tracks. First of all, I got to tell you one thing: the fact that Danica Patrick and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. have broken up, I truly believe that this will be Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s breakout season. This will be Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s breakout season.
Everyone's saying he wants you to win the bet.
Damn right he does. You know, Nicholas Steiner is a good man. I've been shouting Nicholas Steiner out for a few years on this channel now. Nicholas Steiner is a hell of a person. Congrats. Thank you. You know what? Watch. Oh, I'm putting someone in the chat. Hold on.
You know what? I will go. I will do that. I will do that bet. I agree. I'll do that. So we gotta make this because I mixed it around like twice. Are we going to do?
And I'm keeping this audio on my channel. I'm keeping the stream on my channel. So we'll go back in a couple months maybe. And here's what's going to be funny though. What if Ryan Blaney goes out and wins that? But here's the deal. Here's the deal. If either one of our drivers wins the Daytona 500, you have to do it for all off season and all season. Only the Daytona 500 though. So if Ryan Blaney goes out and wins the Daytona 500, you got to put all Danica Patrick stuff on your Twitter for the whole season.
All right, I'll do that. And
if you remember, because I was at that Daytona race last February. Had Ryan Blaney not ran out of gas, he would have won that race. He was a very fast car.
So did Chase. Remember, Chase was in the lead at one point.
So did Kyle Larson.
Yeah. So did Kyle Larson. So did Brian Blaney. So did Chase Elliott. Within the last 5 laps, that's why I made a exclusive video with me reacting to the last 5 laps of the Daytona 500 last year on my channel, because Chase had that race. I mean, Chase led the most laps that year or this year, and it came down to the last few laps and ran out of gas.
I get confirmation. Ryan Blaney didn't run out of gas. He finished second. That's along those lines. That is right. Oh, Redneck Gamers going to the Daytona truck race. I might be there. Are you going to the Daytona truck race in February or in July? Because I might be there. I got to see how my work schedule and everything comes out. But I'm definitely going to be at the 500. I'm going to try and be at the Xfinity race. I'll see if I can make the truck race. But if I'm there, I'll definitely meet up with y'all. We have a bold prediction. Okay. You want to make a bold prediction real quick since I made one.
Well, I was gonna ask. Do you want us? We could do it 2 ways. We could do because I kind of switched around most. I didn't write this down or anything like that. Are we going to do most wins this year, or are we going to do wins first? That's up to you.
Let's do most wins this year. You go first.
Okay.
And before we start this, everyone in the chat. Everyone in the chat. What were you going to say?
I was going to talk about the wager. Are we going to do Blaney or whoever gets the most wins between Blaney and Elliott, or are we going to do whoever
wins first?
Okay.
I'm
good with that.
Whoever wins first, because I don't think these guys. I don't think Blaney or Chase Elliott is going to win like 4 or 5 races like Truex or Kyle Busch or something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't think so
I
either.
think if Chase Elliott wins, he only gets 1 or 2 wins. I think if Blaney wins, he only gets 1 or 2 wins. I don't think they're going to come out like Martin Truex Jr. did and lead every lap and do all that. I think Blaney will probably do what he did last year, sneak a win somewhere at like a Pocono. He's a little bit more experienced. He's finally at Team Penske. Blaney might be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 wins, but I don't see them coming out and winning like 5 or 6 races. I mean, best bet they probably both just win 1 race. But especially with all this talent and competition, I mean, the talent level we have in NASCAR now is as strong as it's ever been. So, you know,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but
So you want me to do a bold prediction now?
make your
Because I
bold
already have one
prediction.
lined up
Make
right
your
here.
bold prediction. Make your bold prediction.
My first bold prediction, which is going to be my first prediction out of the 10 I have listed here. Eric Jones will not win in 2018.
Not.
Eric,
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think Eric
Eric,
Jones wins in
yeah,
2018. I agree with that.
I didn't see the
Nothing
speed
controversial.
last year.
Nothing controversial. I think he has speed. I think Eric Jones could possibly win a pole now that he's actually fully a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. But I don't think he gets a win. And look, nothing against Eric Jones, but he's a hell of a talent. But I just don't think he gets a win in 2018. But he did impress me at Furniture Row. There were times where Eric Jones impressed me at Furniture Row, but then I would think and say, is he really that impressive when Martin Truex Jr., his teammate, is leading every lap? It's kind of like that same theory with Bubba Wallace. It's like Bubba Wallace was okay in the Xfinity Series, but his teammate was spectacular, so you should be a little bit better than that.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the thing: I just didn't see the consistency that he should have. I mean, let's face it, he was with Furniture Row Racing last year, the team that won the championship, won what 16, 17 stage races that year. I don't know the numbers offhand, and ended up getting like what 6 wins this year, last year, 5, 6 wins, something like that. A crazy amount of wins or made a crazy amount of numbers. That you would think both of those teams would be up there, but Eric Jones just was not. And it could be the team. It could be a team, which could
Here's the
be the
thing with
thing
Eric
that
Jones.
hurts me.
Here's the thing with Eric Jones. When I look at Eric Jones' 2017 season, I compare him to 2 people. I compare Eric Jones to his teammate Martin Truex Jr., who did 1,000 times better. I mean, Martin Truex Jr. had a storybook season, obviously, but then I also compare him to his now teammate Daniel Suarez. I look at both those drivers, and if I was one of those drivers going in to 2017, I would want to be Daniel Suarez. Now, again, I don't want to. Again, it is what it is, but Daniel Suarez progressed as the season got along. Started
Oh
out
yeah,
getting
absolutely.
started out getting top 20s, top 15s, top 10s, and by the time the season was over, he was in top 5s. And I was at that Watkins Glen race, and he almost won that race. So Eric Jones had inconsistency. He was good at times, but then he was bad. He was good again, then he was bad. He was good again, then he was bad. The consistency or the inconsistency of Eric Jones scares me, whereas Daniel Suarez really looked like a driver who wasn't necessarily ready because of the circumstances of the Carl Edwards and everything, but he got consistency, and that is a driver I'd look at and say, that's one hell of a talented driver in Daniel Suarez, and that's one driver that definitely improved in 2017. I'm looking forward to see him now. Now, everyone knows I can't really stand Daniel Suarez at all. Can't stand Joe Gibbs Racing, but Daniel Suarez is one of those drivers that was fun to watch last season because you look at his results every few months and he just got better. He just got better and more consistent. That's a driver that solidly improved himself in 2017.
I think at one point he was contending for the win at Homestead.
Well, I was at that race at Watkins Glen, and he was contending for the win at Watkins Glen. There were people with
He's a
5, 10
pretty good
laps.
road course driver too.
There were
He's a
people
good
with
road course driver.
5, 10 laps left. Like, where the fuck did Daniel Suarez come from? And people were like, how is this guy? How was this guy beating all these guys? And then obviously there were some troubles with fuel mileage and whatnot. And Martin Truex Jr. ended up winning the race. But it was one of those things where I was like, wow, Daniel Suarez is
Yeah,
actually up here contending for wins. Like, good for him, man. Good for him. I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan of Joe Gibbs Racing, but look, you can't knock the guy. He's a hell of a talent, and he improved. He's the most improved driver of 2017 from the start of Speed Weeks all the way to Homestead, Miami. There was no one, I believe, that was more improved on their season from point A to point Z all the way in Miami than Daniel Suarez.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. Um,
Go ahead.
and I want everyone in the chat down below to let me know what y'all think of this. There is one driver left in this field. One driver. There is one driver left in all of NASCAR that is a full-time driver that has raced against Dale Earnhardt Sr. With the retirements of Matt Kenseth, the retirements of Dale
I know
Jr.,
it is.
Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon. There is one driver left who has actually raced against Dale Earnhardt Sr., and that is Kurt Busch. My
Yep.
prediction is now that Kurt Busch has signed a 1-year deal, I believe sometime throughout the season, maybe towards the latter part of the season, similar to Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch will make 2018 his last season. I'm calling it right here, right now. What's today's date? January 4th, 2017, 2018, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. I'm calling it now. Kurt Busch will retire at the end of 2018. No, Ryan Newman came in, I believe Ryan Newman came in late 2001 after Dale Earnhardt Sr. had already passed,
He drove part
or
time in 2001. A
he was
total of 7
part
races.
he was part-time in 2001, but I don't believe he
Full
ever
time in
raced
2002.
against Dale Sr. I don't know, but I could be
I do
wrong.
not
Maybe
know.
it's just Ryan Newman, but I
Did not
believe
know.
Kurt Busch is the only driver left. That's a full-time driver because obviously Derek Cope from time to time does circus shit in the back of the field every race. So you could throw Derek Cope around there, but full-time drivers, Kurt Busch is the only driver that has ever raced against Dale Earnhardt Sr. that is left in this field. I believe he's going to retire at the end of 2018.
And since you ended with a retirement prediction, I'm gonna do this one with, you didn't end with one. Obviously, you got more, but I'm gonna have my next one, my retirement prediction, and that is Derek Cope. I think Derek Cope will call it quits after 2018, just so he can manage his race team, which is Starcom Racing, a number 00 car, the car running full time this year with Derek. I think he'll be calling it quits at the end of this year, just to manage the team full time. Which obviously isn't too much of a surprise. I don't think it's a very bold prediction, but it's one that I think it might just happen. I've been following Starcom since they were first established early in
Okay.
2017.
I'm gonna make another prediction here. This goes along with the Kurt Busch prediction. This is a prediction. No one is predicting this. I'm telling you, I am the only motherfucker in all of America, in all of the NASCAR world, predicting this right now. And in a couple years, when this happens, every 5 of y'all and you too, Brantana, can come back to this video and say, "By dang, he was right." So here we go. Kurt Busch retires in 2018. Now, Kurt Busch retires in 2018. I truly believe that happens because of all the facts that he struggled with sponsorship. Haas is sponsoring him.
He signed 1-year contract this year.
Monster sponsoring him, but Monster might be out of the season after 2018. We don't know what's going on there. He doesn't really have any other sponsors. That's always been his downfall, sponsorship. I truly believe that we will see Christopher Bell at some point in time get his break into the Xfinity Series, into the Cup Series with Stewart-Haas Racing. And here is why. Christopher Bell obviously is one of the hottest names in all of young driver development in NASCAR. I mean, if you can get Christopher Bell in your system, you hit the jackpot. But you look at Joe Gibbs Racing, they let go of William Byron. Why did they let go of William Byron? Because they had Eric Jones and they had Daniel Suarez. And Joe Gibbs right now has the biggest problem in NASCAR that everyone wished they had. Too much good young talent. And you have a sport where you can only have 4 drivers in the Cup Series. Joe Gibbs Racing has too much young talent. He's bringing up Harrison Burton right now. He's bringing up Noah Gragson. I truly believe right now that Christopher Bell, a pure dirt racer, a guy who's won at Tony's track in Eldora, a guy who is liked a lot by Tony Stewart, will replace Kurt Busch when he retires. I truly believe that he fits the mold for a Tony Stewart team member more so than a lot of these other guys. And I know Cole Custer kind of is the main guy because of his father working with Stewart Haas, and Tony seems to have opened up to really liking Cole Custer. But you look at Denny Hamlin. Joe Gibbs has been very adamant on the fact that Denny Hamlin is going to be around for maybe another 10 more years. He's already said that. We know Kyle Busch is going to be around for at least 8 or 9 more years. I just believe that there's no space at Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, Eric Jones is going to be there for what, 10, 15 years? Daniel
Hmm.
Suarez is going to be there for 10, 15 years. Uh, Joe Gibbs has said Hamlin's there for 8 or 9 more years. They just signed a huge contract with FedEx. FedEx wants Danny. And you're not going to let Kyle Busch go. I mean, he's maybe the best driver in NASCAR at times. I mean, you're not going to let Kyle Busch go. Where does Christopher Bell go? Maybe another 77 team like Alex here is talking about. But I truly believe that Christopher Bell is
Well,
a hell of
Kyle,
a dirt racer. He's a hell of a midget sprint car racer. He just reminds me a lot of a guy like Tony Stewart. I just see this happening. And you know what? And if Eric Almirola doesn't work out, you throw him in there as well. So I truly see something like this happening. And no one else is predicting this. Christopher Bell to Stewart Haas Racing in 2020. Christopher Bell to Stewart Haas Racing in 2020.
all right.
And on top of
Uh,
that, Cole Custer hasn't impressed me. I don't know what a lot of people are saying, but Cole Custer is a lot like Bubba Wallace. He hasn't won in the Xfinity Series, and I know some things haven't fallen his way, some things didn't fall his way. He got wrecked by John Hunter Nemechek in Canada up in the Truck Series, but Cole Custer just isn't one of those guys that really impresses me. He has like no personality, Cole Custer. Cole Custer is one of those guys. If you ever hear him in an interview, you're like, "Why are you interviewing this kid? He's got nothing to say." He's just dry. And Christopher Bell is just one of those guys that can sell shirts. He's one of those guys that can win races. He's liked at dirt tracks all around the country. He's got a strong following. He's from Oklahoma. I truly feel like Christopher Bell is just the guy that's going to be driving for Stewart Haas Racing in the near future.
I don't know what. I can see it too because not only that, but look at uh, the other four drivers or other three drivers right now he's got going at Stewart Haas Racing. Uh, Most importantly, of the three that would fit the bill the most is Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer being a Midwest driver, being from Kansas, he he's got a lot of dirt track experience
I'm
as
being
well,
corrected here.
driving late models.
I'm not to break it up, but Cole Custer didn't win at Homestead. I always forget about that win because of the championship implications. It's a good win for Cole Custer. I
Yep.
always put an asterisk next to that one because of the championship implications. But Cole Custer did win at Homestead. He did dominate that race, and he goes in the 2018 season with a little bit of momentum. But I put an asterisk next to that one just because of the fact that no one really cares who wins the Homestead race. You just care about who wins the championship. And I
Might I
wasn't,
add,
it is what it is.
in my opinion, that of the four or of the three title races, that was the best of the three, in my opinion. The Xfinity race was amazing. Had a great championship battle all the way through the race with William Byron, the most dominant driver of the Xfinity drivers, being in and up on
Elliott
top.
Sadler, man, William Byron, Elliott Sadler. And you know what? I gotta say one thing. I feel so gutted for Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler is a hell of a dude. He has been around for
Oh
so
yeah,
long, and he reminds me of a Mark Martin. Just a guy who, no matter what he does, cannot get a championship. And that was why so many people fell in love with Mark Martin later into his career because you got the feeling that Mark Martin was just one of those guys that he wins so much. He's liked by everybody. Hell of a driver, but just cannot get over that championship hunt. And there were so many seasons where it was like the championship was in Mark Martin's hand, and somehow it just got away from him. You get the same feeling with Elliott Sadler. Nicholas Steiner, Elliott Sadler is being a dick to Ryan Preece and tried to wreck him. Even with that being said, Elliott Sadler is one of those guys that has done so much and just never wins a championship. And I think Elliott Sadler is going to go into his 50s if he doesn't win a championship because he's one of those guys who wants it so bad. He's one of those guys where you listen to his interviews, you listen to the things he says, you listen to his work ethic. He wants to win so freaking bad. And I don't care if you like him or not, you have to admire that.
oh yeah. I'm a Sadler fan. I have nothing against the guy. I've been a fan of his since he drove the 38 car in Cup for Robert Yates. I have nothing against the guy. The dude's got a drive that every driver should have. Where
And he's got a hell
it's
of a personality. I know a lot of people don't care about personality; they just care about what you do behind the wheel. But he's a hell of a guy. I mean, he's the type of guy you wouldn't want to go down to the local bar and get a beer with him. Hello.
there you go. That's some weird thing going on with your mic for a second
Oh,
there.
you couldn't hear me. You couldn't hear me. Can people hear me?
It, I heard you, but it was like super glitchy. I can hear you
Can you
now.
hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm trying to fix it. Trying to fix it. Redneck Gamers. Elliot Sadler is a down to earth guy. Oh hell yeah, he is. And again, he's one of those guys that is just likable. And he drives for Junior Motorsports. A lot of people like Dale Jr. because he's a likable guy. It just fits.
Um. So my next prediction I have here is another not so bold one. It's a pretty prediction. It's a prediction I pretty much I feel like it's going to come true. That's why I just put it on here because it was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel when I came up with this one. But I think it will. I think it will happen. And that is all 2017 Final Four drivers, which of course ended up being Truex, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and who was the fourth one? Already forgetting. Help me out here, guys. Who was the fourth one? I'm drawing a
What's
blank
that?
right now.
Truex, Keselowski,
It was Truex, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and who else?
Kevin
Who was the
Harvick.
fourth?
Kevin
Yeah,
Harvick.
Harvick. Yeah, I
You're
was
making
drawing a
a
blank there.
prediction. You don't even know who the. Oh, come on, bud.
I'm just drawing a blank here. Okay.
How can you forget Kevin Harvick? He's got the best paint scheme in all of NASCAR with that Busch beer car.
So my prediction is all four of those guys will once again make the playoffs this year. I don't think all four will make the Final Four this year. But I predict.
Oh, come
all four will make.
on. That's a lame ass prediction. Come on, we already know
Yeah,
what
it
happened.
is. Like I said, I was scraping the bottom of the barrel when I came up with this prediction. I was scraping the bottom of the barrel. I kind of came up with that one as like a filler.
Where are your
For it to get 10.
cojones? Where are your cojones? Come on, man. You gotta be. Oh, come on. All right. I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. I believe that Paul Menard and Eric Almirola both win in 2018. Obviously, Eric Almirola going over to Stewart Haas Racing, Paul Menard going over to Wood Brothers. I believe both of them will win a race, and here's why. I truly believe that Paul Menard is a hell of a race car driver. I know a lot of people think he's only in the sport because his family owns Menards. I truly believe Paul Menard is a hell of a freaking race car driver. He won in Indianapolis with RCR. Obviously, it was a fuel mileage win, but he wins. He won a race in the Xfinity Series, and I really truly believe that RCR is an organization that is bringing average cars to the racetrack. I mean, okay, yeah, Austin Dillon won a race. Fuel mileage shouldn't have really won that race. It was great to see him win the race, but he was not even close to being the best car. He was a 20th place car, but he won on fuel mileage. Ryan Newman, one of the greatest drivers. I think Ryan Newman is a hell of a driver. Shouldn't have won that race. Just the fact that he's an amazing driver and Ryan Newman is so hard to pass, the fact he stayed out on old tires, people couldn't pass him. He won at Phoenix. But I truly believe that Paul Menard will get a win with the Wood Brothers. This is now a Penske car. Remember, guys, Penske is being backed by Menards full throttle. Menards is a IndyCar sponsor for Penske, but one of the primary sponsors. One of the primary sponsors for Paul Menard is for Ryan Blaney is Menards. This Wood Brothers team is going to be run very much similar to the way it was run in 2017 with Ryan Blaney. I think Paul Menard gets a win at either Watkins Glen or Sonoma, one of the two road courses, or I think he gets a win in Michigan, which is technically his home track, or a place like a Chicagoland. But really, do not be surprised. I'm keeping or maybe Pocono, or maybe Kansas, because Wood Brothers is really good. So the races I'm looking out for Paul Menard are both road course races because he's won at a road course in the Xfinity Series. Pocono, because of the success they had in 2017. Kansas, and Michigan. Look out for those racetracks. If Paul Menard wins one of those, I would not be surprised. And then you talk about Eric Almirola. We have a question here. Where do I think Eric Almirola wins? Well, obviously he's a hell of a restrictor plate racer. A hell of a restrictor plate racer, and the Fords, if in case you didn't know, the Fords are the best restrictor plate cars. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won there twice last year. Joey and Brad have been fast as hell at the restrictor plate tracks. Eric Almirola, a guy who obviously won a rain shortened race at Daytona with the 43, won this year in the 98 car in the Xfinity Series. All 4 restrictor plate races, look out for Eric Almirola. Also, look out for Eric Almirola at Richmond and Atlanta. I think Richmond is a hell of a track Eric Almirola could win at. But just the point being, I think both drivers win in 2018.
I don't see Menard winning. I just don't see it happening, and maybe it's because I'm just so used to seeing him at RCR, where RCR has struggled throughout the last couple of years. I just always see Menard as like a mid-pack to backmarker driver.
All right,
That
Mr.
much this year.
Skeleton. Have a good night. Have a good night, Mr. Sorry to interrupt, but have a good night, Mr. Skeleton. Thanks for joining us.
By the way, I'm linking the link to the primary channel so everyone can subscribe to that and hear us in the future.
All right, continue.
Oh no, never mind. It's not letting me put links out. That's nice.
Well, I'll link something afterwards.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah.
Paul Menard.
Yeah, Paul Menard. I'm losing my train of thought. Okay.
Menard. By the way,
Yes.
I shop at Lowe's, so this is not sponsored by Menards. I'm a Lowe's type of guy.
I've never been inside of a store of Menards anyway in my life, so.
Nah, there's no Menards in my area, so there's no Menards in my area.
Me neither. There might be one, but I'm not sure.
There's Lowe's. Lowe's are everywhere, man. I'll tell you what. Every corner I turn, I see a Lowe's. But
yeah, I mean, but back to what I was saying, it's just Paul Menard has been in the sport since back in the DEI days, 04, 05, and even when he was with DEI, who had RCR equipment and back then was a top team. RCR was, or not RCR, but DEI was. He still didn't get that many wins. I mean, not enough wins for him to meet the quota of that team. Now he's going to be coming back with a team that could potentially win races, could potentially win a championship, and I don't see it changing. I really don't. Now, I do think he's better than what he has been the last couple of years, but I don't think he's been a winning caliber driver.
Like I said,
if he is, he's past his prime. If he was, and he spent his prime at RCR.
Well, look, I'm not saying he's going to go out and win the championship or even come close to it. All I'm saying is he's going to get a win in 2018. And point being, people who are new to this sport for the last couple of years have no idea who the fuck Paul Menard even is, because he's done absolutely nothing. I mean, he's almost Danica Patrick's level. But what I'm saying is he jumps in an Xfinity Series car from one race in a very long time, and he wins that race. And it was an eye-opening moment for me, because it was a race where there were other Cup Series drivers, other good Xfinity Series drivers, other road course specialists. Paul Menard comes out of nowhere and wins that race, and it's an eye-popping moment where you kind of just look at it and say, Paul Menard can wheel a race car. He can. He wouldn't have won that race. Paul Menard can wheel a race car. Paul Menard is not Brian Scott. He's not John West Townley. Yes, he's a pay driver, but he's not a bad one. He comes out of nowhere, hasn't been in an Xfinity car in years, and wins a race. I mean, it's a pretty big deal as far as I'm concerned. Okay, now we have Redneck Gamers is trying to make me happy. Reed Sorensen will win the Daytona 500 if he has a ride. I agree with that. That is my ultimate bold prediction from the mouth of Redneck Gamers. Reed Sorensen will win the Daytona 500 if he has a ride. That's my prediction of 2018. That is my number one prediction, bold prediction of 2018. My boy Reed Sorensen from Peachtree City, Georgia. the greatest place on earth, will win the Daytona 500. I'm going with that. Redneck Gamers, shout out to you. God bless you.
I actually have a Daytona 5 prediction myself, and I have it on here listed. Um, I'm gonna go with a driver that is consistent every year. A driver that has been consistent at plate tracks. Which, granted, it's a plate track. Plate races have proven that anyone can win a plate race. Granted, you have a draft, and a car strong enough to stay in the draft. Um, with that being said, this driver has both of those. This driver is a driver that is not only a driver that can potentially win the Daytona 500, but is a championship contender every year, and has been since his rookie year. I'm going to say my Daytona 500 prediction is going to be Kyle Larson.
Ooh, that is not a bad prediction at all, especially if you watched that race last year. A couple of bad pit strategies for Kyle Larson fucked him over at the end, but he was arguably the best driver that day. But as you know, with these restrictor plate races, best driver doesn't always win. I mean, look at Kurt Busch winning the Daytona 500. A top 10 car for sure, but he was not a guy that was on people's minds for winning that race. And kudos to him for doing it. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. He can now go down in history as being a champion and Daytona 500 champion. But he wasn't on people's lists, and it got taken away from Larson.
Alex, I'll get to my championship prediction at the end. At the very end, that'll be my last prediction. It's my championship prediction, which I do have as well. And I'll give you guys a spoiler alert right now. It's not a driver that's surprising. It's a driver that you would expect to be a championship contender. Because I'm being realistic.
I think most people who know me probably know who I'm picking at this point in time, but you know, it is what it is.
I have a feeling I know who you're predicting, but I'm not going to say until I'm going to make the championship predictions of the last one if you're okay with that, because I want the end to close the show off with it tonight.
Okay, Redneck Gamers. I know you don't like him, but I believe Corey LaJoy has talent. Here's my problem with Corey LaJoy. Here's my big problem with Corey LaJoy. Corey LaJoy came up through the same ranks as Bubba Wallace, came up through the same ranks as Ryan Blaney. And Nicholas Steiner, Joey Logano is not my pick. So okay. So Joey Logano will not win the championship. He's not who I'm picking. But Corey LaJoy came up through the same ranks. And I'm not saying Corey LaJoy isn't talented. What I'm saying is, as a Reed Sorensen fan, you look back at Daytona 500 qualifying, Corey LaJoy deliberately just bumper card, slammed and wrecked the fuck out of Reed Sorensen to get that final qualifying spot in the Daytona 500. And I said it then, and I said it again. Bumping and running is one thing, but deliberately driving into somebody and playing bumper cars out there, I will never respect that. I lost respect for Corey LaJoy at that point. I broke a window in my house when Corey LaJoy did that. And Corey LaJoy ain't paying my bills to fix that window. I had to put a pretty penny out to fix that window that I broke when Corey LaJoy wrecked the fuck out of Reed Sorensen. And I said, I will never have respect for Corey LaJoy because he deliberately wrecked. He played bumper cars with Reed Sorensen. Reed Sorensen was in a worse car, a worse car by far, an unsponsored piece of shit car Reed Sorensen was in. And he was out driving Corey LaJoy, who, okay, he was driving a BK Racing car, but it's still a sponsored car with a lot more workers on that team and a lot more experience in a crew chief than Reed Sorensen had, and he deliberately wrecks Reed Sorensen. I will never have respect for Corey LaJoy because of that moment right there. Now, with that being said, Corey LaJoy embarrassed himself. You look at what Alex Bowman did at BK Racing, and a lot of people respected Alex Bowman. Yes, he was getting 22nd, 24th, 25th at BK Racing. But Alex Bowman, you never heard his name. And when you're driving for those small teams like BK Racing, like Premium Motorsports, the less we hear of your name, the better. Because that means you're not wrecking all the time. Because when you're driving 24th and 25th all the time, the only time your name is going to be on TV is if you're wrecking. There was a stretch where Corey LaJoy and Greg Golding too, but I don't want to get into him because I have to be quiet. There's people sleeping in my house. I don't want to start fucking breaking TVs. But Corey LaJoy, there was a point where we went maybe a good 10 races where he wrecked every single race multiple times, and every time it was just him spinning out for no reason. It wasn't even like he was battling for position. 10, 12 races in a row where he just deliberately wrecked himself for no fucking reason. And that pisses me off because I don't want to see, with all the TV commercials we get on TV and all the fucking cautions with these fucking stages, I do not want to see some driver who drives for a pointless fucking team wrecking every fucking week and stopping action on the track when we have enough debris cautions and we have enough fucking stage cautions and we have enough fucking TV commercials. Here comes Corey LaJoy once again to cause a caution. And when you want Corey LaJoy to wreck because Martin Truex Jr. has a fucking 30-second lead and there's only 2 laps left, you want Corey LaJoy to wreck, he's nowhere to be found.
Um, I was gonna go somewhere from that with that, but I think you kind of answered it already. Corey LaJoy, he crashes all the time. To me, he's going the same route as Dylan Kwasniewski. Now, if you remember, Dylan Kwasniewski was actually in the NASCAR Next program, in the same program as Darrell Wallace Jr., Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney. Drivers that are.
That's the same
Uh,
that is the same way Corey LaJoy was brought up. And I tell you what, Corey
yeah,
LaJoy will have absolutely no respect in that garage area because look at Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman is the poster boy for doing NASCAR the right way, starting at an underfunded small team, getting better week in and week out, talking to other drivers, picking their brains, knowing what they should, what they shouldn't do, knowing when to let cars pass you, knowing who to wreck, knowing there was nothing more annoying for Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick when a driver who has absolutely no meaning to the race keeps wrecking the race. You have Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch battling for the lead and they have to keep stopping because some guy in 30th keeps wrecking. You will have no respect and you won't have those guys uh, um, referral when you are asking them for a spot on a higher team. And Alex Bowman was one of those guys who got better every week at BK Racing, and look where he is now. He's at arguably the best ride in all of motorsports.
oh yeah. I mean, Bowman, the dude started literally with nothing. The guy, I remember when he was driving for Tommy Baldwin Racing. This is like what, 2014, 2015,
Alex
and
Bowman got an 18th place position at Chicagoland. It was either with Tommy Baldwin or BK Racing. Anyone who knows in the comment section, let me know that down below. But whichever team it was the best finish in that team's history. And it wasn't at a restrictor plate race. It was at Chicagoland. And
it wouldn't be BK Racing then.
from that moment on, I said to myself, I said, this kid is the real deal. I'm going to follow his career because one day he's going to be driving for one of the top teams somewhere. And surely enough, a few years later, here he is driving arguably the best car in all of NASCAR, the 88, taking over for Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, there's no
I
other ride out there, I think, that you could ask for.
Oh, we got breaking news with BK Racing actually.
Okay, you heard it here first. Breaking news. What is this breaking news?
Breaking news by jski.com, so it's authentic.
Okay, let's go.
Doug Reichert, which is actually a crew chief for BK Racing in the 83 car, is leaving BK Racing after being with the team for 7 years.
Ooh.
So,
Now, I
he
heard
was actually
news.
the crew chief for Corey LaJoy in 2017 on the 83 Dustless Blasting car. He was also a crew chief for Jeffrey Earnhardt in 2016. 2015, he was a teammate or the crew chief for whoever was driving that car then. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I am drawing sort of blanks today.
I heard
And
news. Now, I heard rumors from different people around the garage area that BK Racing on numerous occasions has considered just closing its doors. Now, I don't know if that's the case. They
they
appear to
have
be
considered
fielding
that.
cars for 2018, but there has been strong consideration from BK Racing on closing their doors because I'll tell you one thing. We know they're underfunded. We know some of the things they're doing. But every year, BK Racing is the quote unquote meme team of NASCAR. Every year, BK Racing, look, they used to have JJ Yeley and Alex Bowman, and they were a respected team because they had good drivers. They had David Reagan, but nowadays they just put anybody in their cars and they just wreck every race. I mean, do you guys remember that story where Greg Golding,
2015 was Matt DiBenedetto, by the way.
the story
Now I remember it.
that came out where Greg Golding literally his mommy was paying BK Racing? Like it was like, oh hey, I'm the owner of BK Racing. If you have $250,000, you can drive at Richmond. And it was one of those things where I was like, that's all it takes. All I gotta do is write you a fucking check. Now I don't have money to do it, but like anyone can do it. And that's the thing. It's like anyone who has money can drive for BK Racing. No wonder they're wrecking every 3 seconds.
Wow. So that literally just broke today
Yeah,
at
breaking
about 1
motherfucking
o'clock
news
today.
on the 3 Wide podcast.
It's not breaking news because it came out about 1 o'clock today, but I went to Jayski to see if any new news came out, and that was it. Also, Eminem's Caramel is returning to the 18 car in 2018, which that was to be expected. So that's why they didn't really bring that one up.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. We got a couple of questions here. I just wanted to talk about them real quick. Do you remember Greg Golding getting a top 10 at Talladega? Well, yes, I do, but I agree with what Nicholas Tanner says that there were only 12 cars left, and the other 2 cars that were behind Greg Golding, I think they had like 2 wheels on their car. I mean, let's be serious. We're going to give credit to Greg Golding, and I believe Rick Allen and those boys in NBC gave Greg Golding credit. Let's be fair here. Greg Golding got a top 10 at Talladega because there were 12 cars left in the field. Every car in front of Greg Golding, mind you, and you guys, I'm starting to get some messages from the people who were living in this house with me that I got to quiet down because I'm starting to get heated about Greg Golding. But the fact of the matter is, Greg Golding got a top 10 in a clean race car with 12 drivers left. You mean to tell me that you have someone in 5th place, in 6th place, in 7th place who has wrecked 9 times and they're still in front of a Greg Golding who hasn't wrecked? He's just a joke. It is an absolute motherfucking joke. And, I saw a video on YouTube from a couple years ago where Kevin Harvick, a guy that is very respected, one of the guys who I consider the greatest drivers of all time, one of the greatest drivers, Kevin Harvick developed Greg Golding. I don't know about you, but he fucked up somewhere because Greg Golding is a ridiculously bad NASCAR driver. He blocked me on Twitter. I challenged Greg Golding. I
He
said,
did?
he blocked me on Twitter a while ago. I made a video on my channel, but I took it down. Basically, what had happened was Greg Golding and Corey LaJoie were coming to Pennsylvania for Pocono Raceway. I live not too far from the racetrack, which is in the middle of the sticks. And I told Greg Golding and Corey LaJoie, I'm like, hey, I know a couple of go-kart tracks around Pocono Raceway. I will literally pay for your admission to the go-kart track and prove to the people of NASCAR that I am a better driver than you, Greg Golding. And he got scared and he blocked me. Because Greg Golding knows that I told Greg Golding, I'm like, dude, I'm not a race car driver. But I bet you if I took you to the go-kart track, you would lose to me or you would only win because you wrecked me. And he blocked me. So I'm like, all right, challenge not accepted. I guess I win.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the that was one of the segments I was talking about, Alex. The ESPN special with Alan Bestwick. I can't remember if it was ESPN or Speed, because remember back in those days we had the Speed channel, which please God bring that back. But there was Greg Golding and
I
Kevin
miss Speed
Harvick.
Channel.
It was either ESPN or Speed channel, where I saw that. Trevor Bayne wrecked 5 times, finished 5th. Exactly. I mean, you have Trevor Bayne, who isn't really that good a driver. He's a good restrictor plate driver. He wrecks 5 times and finishes 5th. So Greg Golding never wrecked in that race. Greg Golding, I believe, was the only car that whole race who hadn't wrecked. It was basically because he was too slow to be up there with the rest of the cars and kept falling off, falling behind the pack. But you have a driver who has wrecked 5 times. I think at one point his car was on fire, and he finished 6 or 7 spots in front of you, and we're praising you for getting a top 10. There were 12 cars left. I mean, it's ridiculous. He was on race
Twitter's
number
busy
2017
tonight.
with Caitlin Vincey. I did see that as well. Exactly. I literally told Greg Golden on Twitter, I'm like, dude, here's what's gonna happen. I'm either gonna win you, I'm either gonna beat you because you just absolutely are a shitty fucking driver, or you're gonna wreck me on the first lap like you do at every race and lose and beat me because my car's wrecked. All right, Keselowski didn't crash, but he won the race. Keselowski didn't crash, but remember, he won that fucking race.
I think we should get onto another prediction before you get too heated on Greg Golding again and
Yeah,
get yelled at.
let's change the topic. The Gray Golding topics are the topics for when I'm home alone, because I can't get the rest of my family here on this bullshit.
My next prediction I have. Oh, I already have this one marked off. Let me do that real quick. All right, my next prediction I have on here is another one that I think a lot of people have on their prediction list as well. However, I do believe it will happen, and I am just once again just being realistic, and that is a rookie will win in 2018. Right now, we only have one rookie set, and that's William Byron.
Well, are we considering
I
Bubba Wallace a rookie? Obviously.
yeah, okay, yes, he is going to be competing for rookie of the year. I believe. Yes, he is. He will be contending for rookie of the year this year, so him and Bubba Wallace will be included in this.
I agree with that, because earlier in the show I made the prediction that William Byron and Alex Bowman would win and Chase Elliott wouldn't. So here's the deal with William Byron. Everything he stepped into, he has had success and early success. You look at that Truck Series championship. If it
Absolutely.
wasn't for this stupid shitty fucking system, William Byron would have ran away with that championship. He wins the Xfinity Series championship. He's a guy who started on iRacing, who pretty much won every race he stepped into in iRacing. There's no doubt about it that William Byron, in my mind, will win a race in 2018. I think he wins 2 races. I think he wins multiple races. He's just one of those guys he was just born with talent to drive fast race cars. Everything he steps in, no matter what team it's for. Now,
Absolutely.
he has had the benefit of driving for the best teams in every series. Obviously, Kyle Busch Motorsports, the best team. Obviously, Junior Motorsports, the best team. And now he's driving for Hendrick Motorsports, who is, if not the best team, one of the best teams. So I truly believe that he's got everything in his hands, and he is just one of those guys who was just born with the God-given ability to be good at driving race cars, and it shows.
I know you don't like Jeff Gordon. You made that very clear. He is in the path of having a career like Jeff Gordon. I honestly believe that.
Jeff Gordon, what?
Yeah. I totally believe it. I think he is coming into having the similar path, racing path, a similar career as Jeff Gordon, and that's something that I can see happening.
Here's what I'll say. I could not root for Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott's a Georgia boy, and Chase Elliott campaigned for Donald Trump. I wanted to root for Chase Elliott so fucking bad, but I couldn't for a couple of reasons. He was driving the 24, which I thought was a stupid fucking decision from the beginning. And every time you would see Chase Elliott, at least when NBC was doing broadcasting, every time Chase Elliott would be winning, it would always filter back to them showing us Jeff Gordon. And I'm like, what does Chase Elliott honestly have to do with Jeff Gordon other than the fact that he's driving his number? You're not showing us Bill Elliott. You're not showing us Rick Hendrick. You're showing us Jeff Gordon, and it bothered me a lot, because it's like, let Chase Elliott be his own driver. If you want to drive the 9 because it's his father's number, I'll that's cool. But
Yeah. I agree.
Chase Elliott, and I made a video about this too. I made a video about this when he first chose the 24. It's not on my channel anymore, but I made a video, and the title was "Chase Elliott is not Jeff Gordon." I mean, how many times that I had to watch Chase Elliott race that I felt like I was watching Jeff Gordon because of the fact that the media and the announcers kept throwing it down my throat. I'm like, I want to like Chase Elliott, but every time I bring up his name, I have to hear about Jeff Gordon, and I'm like, from someone who hated Jeff Gordon, I can't do it. Now he's driving the 9 car, and I'll see how things go as the season progresses. But that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to be able to root for William Byron, just because too much shit with Jeff Gordon. And I know that every second William Byron is in the media, Jeff Gordon's name will pop up just like that. And it's you don't get that with other drivers. I know Austin Dillon gets that because of Dale Earnhardt Sr., but he's Richard Childress' grandson. It makes sense.
Dylan Jr. got that too, especially
And again, that makes
not long
sense.
after his dad died.
It would make sense to talk about Bill Elliott every time we talk about Chase, but it just didn't make 100% sense to me that we had to talk about Jeff Gordon every time. And I know every time we hear about Alex Bowman, we're going to hear about Dale Earnhardt Jr. It's just what's going to happen. But again, I wasn't a hater of Dale Earnhardt Jr., so it's not that big a deal to me.
I'm not either. I'm just saying he was overhyped for what it
legitimately hated Jeff Gordon. I know he's your favorite driver of all time, but from someone who legitimately hated Jeff Gordon, more than any other driver out there, it just put a bad taste in my mouth from an early standpoint of the season about Chase Elliott.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get what you mean there, and trust me, I've seen that plenty of times myself. Of course, even with my example with Dale Jr. with Dale Sr., which makes more sense even. But even then, it's like Dale Jr. had his own accomplishments. Dale Sr. had his own accomplishments. Leave the two separate. They're not the same people. That's why a lot of people, when they see Ron Hornaday,
here's the thing. It's like, we want to talk about how great Jeff Gordon was as a driver, and he was. We want to talk about how he broke barriers, being from California, coming into the sport when Richard Petty left. Look, he did a lot of good things, Jeff Gordon. He left a lot of positive marks on this sport. There's no denying that. I actually had to do a project in my college class, and I did a project about Jeff Gordon. But here's the thing. Why don't we just retire his number? Retire the 24, retire the number like they do in NFL. Fuck the NFL, but like they do in NBA and MLB. When you have a legend of the sport, you realize how important this figure was to the sport. You retire the number and you say, okay, this driver was so important to our sport. There will never be another Jeff Gordon, so we should never have another 24. And that is the same way I feel about this. When someone like LeBron James retires from the NBA, his number is going to be retired from the team he played for. Why don't we retire the 24? And again, I understand them keeping the 3 because Austin Dillon did have a part in Dale Sr.'s life. He's Richard Childress' grandson. I got goosebumps when he won that race and I saw the 3 back in victory lane. But the 24, and again, I'm not a fan, and I just said I hated the 24, so you can speak on this, but would you rather see the 24 back in victory lane with another driver, or would you rather see the 24 retired from NASCAR?
I've always, ever since I first started watching racing, and ever since I first started commenting on racing, I've had the same reaction to it, and I've gotten into many arguments via Facebook because of this. Go figure. I have been very much against retiring of numbers in NASCAR. I still am. I do not like the idea. I think it's a horrible idea.
There are certain situations. So you think it's a horrible idea to retire numbers in NASCAR?
Absolutely. I think it's a terrible idea. Because that means the legacy dies with the driver's career. I don't think it's a good idea to let them go like that, or just make it where they're unable to be used again. That's just ridiculous.
My whole thing is, we have just had a bunch of legends retire from this sport, and
sure.
the whole thing is with me is that Jeff Gordon goes down in history as a top 5 guy. I think a lot of people agree with that. That Jeff Gordon goes down as a top 5 guy. I mean, he won 4 championships. He won a hell of a lot of races. If they hadn't kept changing this quote unquote chase system, a lot of people believe that Jeff Gordon probably would be the Jimmy Johnson of NASCAR. But the fact of the matter is, we want to make the point that there only was one Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon is the greatest of all time to some people, which I don't think he is. But you have someone
I don't even think he's the greatest of all time.
you had someone who was such a legacy in the sport retire the number. I just feel the way. I don't think we should retire the 88 because Dale Jr. wasn't the driver that Jeff Gordon was. I don't think we should retire a lot of numbers, but I think there comes a time where the 24 should either not be used or retired. And my whole thing was, why did Chase Elliott jump into the 24? Into the Cup Series, and I said it before. I said, that year was the first year that the 9 wasn't being used at Richard Petty Motorsports because Marcos Ambrose had just left. Richard Petty had said, Rick Hendrick, I will give you back the 9, the number 9. I'll give you the rights to the number 9 if Chase Elliott wants it. And Chase Elliott said no. But Chase Elliott drove the 9 car in the Xfinity Series, or Nationwide, whatever you want to call it. He drove the 9 his whole career, and so did his father. I didn't understand why he didn't just take the 9 from the get-go.
He didn't take 9 because he said that it was a legacy of the 24. He wanted to capitalize, or not capitalize, but he wanted to add on to that legacy, which obviously I don't think he did to the caliber that people expected him to. But
I don't think he, and there were a lot of people right now who are saying that, because there's this argument right now that Chase Elliott is the next Dale Jr. of NASCAR. He's the next most popular driver. But what comes along with being the next Dale Jr. of NASCAR is having a lot of inconsistency and not winning championships. And it's hard to argue against that when he hasn't won a race yet. And again, he's come very close, and I think he's going to win very soon. I just predicted he won't win in 2018. I think Chase Elliott is the next Dale Jr. of NASCAR. He's the guy that everyone wants to see win. He's the guy that everyone's going to be rooting for. But when it comes down to it, is he going to not perform when it's time to perform? Is he going to go 4 or 5 seasons without winning a race? Is he only going to win at certain racetracks? Because what is Dale Jr.'s actual driving legacy? Not his legacy as an impact on the sport, but what he did inside the race car. Hell of a restrictor plate driver. Don't really have much more to say about him.
Back to the subject of retiring numbers, though. There's specific reasons why I don't think that we should retire numbers. One, because I feel like it's just ending a legacy, which legacies shouldn't end with one driver, in my opinion. Granted, we're not going to have a driver like Jeff Gordon, like a Dale Earnhardt Sr. or another Richard Petty.
Okay, I got first of all.
But that's for the Hall of Fame. That's
continue. Complete 360 here. Nicholas Steiner, a good subscriber of mine, consider him a buddy, says, dude, you think Jimmy Johnson is the best of all time? He'd only have 2 or 3 championships without the chase. I don't want to get into a whole argument defending myself here, but here is why Jimmy Johnson is the greatest driver of all time. And I didn't think I would get into this. The whole fact about what makes a driver and a team great is conforming to the results, conforming to the circumstances. Okay, Jimmy Johnson would have only had 2 or 3 championships without the chase, but maybe he would have driven a different season. We don't know. What we know is that no matter what is thrown at Jimmy Johnson and that 48 team, all they do is win. There has never been a driver in the history of this sport that NASCAR has legitimately changed the system because of that driver. They have changed this system. They changed the system once because Jimmy Johnson won too many championships. What did Jimmy Johnson do? He came back in the new system and won the championship. Oh, so Brian France and everyone in NASCAR got all upset because people are going to stop watching because Jimmy Johnson keeps winning championships. So they changed the system again. And what does Jimmy Johnson do? Comes back and wins another championship. There has been no driver in NASCAR who has battled on-track adversity and been successful more than Jimmy Johnson. That is what makes him the greatest driver of all time. No doubt about it in my mind.
But back to retiring numbers. Yeah, I get what you mean. You had to defend yourself there. Yeah, because I've heard you say that plenty of times, saying Jimmy Johnson's the greatest, if not one, if not
He just
the
is.
one of
He
the
just
greatest
is,
drivers
and
of all
I
time.
think it's going to be very clear that Jimmy Johnson gets at least an 8th championship, maybe a 9th, and
Yeah, I agree.
we can all squash this 7-time championship. He said, she said debate. We'll all be able to say Jimmy Johnson an 8-time or 9-time champion, and we can all squash this debate.
The only people that deny that Jimmy Johnson's not the greatest of all time are the old fans. The old fans that are deniers. The fans that are denying the playoffs. Fans that deny, or the fans that have been, fans since the 80s, since the 70s.
And look,
The ones who say Dale
I love
Earnhardt. No
Dale
one's
Earnhardt
ever going to
Sr.
beat Dale Earnhardt.
And look,
Jimmy Johnson has a better record than Dale Sr. Sorry.
Look, I love Dale Earnhardt Sr. I got a poster of him on my wall. I love Dale Earnhardt Sr. I always will. And there were legitimate fans that said, had he not had that fatal, tragic accident, he might have won a couple more championships. And look, that might have happened. That's one of the things that we'll never know. Because of the circumstances of that accident, we'll never know if Dale Earnhardt Sr. would have won another race or won another race, won another championship. We just don't know that. But what we know is that Jimmy Johnson is the only driver I have witnessed in NASCAR battle adversity. Literally, the sport is changing every day because he won't stop winning, and yet he still wins. They have made this system so that, and I'm telling you, there are people who will tell you that Brian France, Steve O'Donnell, Mike Helton have literally sat down in a room as NASCAR executives and said, what can we do so that Jimmy Johnson doesn't win a championship next year? And what has he done? Come back and won the championship. There was no driver, there was no athlete, there was nobody anywhere who has battled adversity like that and still come back and continue to have success.
There's people in the comment section arguing about the legitimacy of Austin Dillon, and I think Ty Dillon's added in there too. Here's the thing with the Dillon brothers. This is a complete turn of what this argument was going. But
I'm gonna be right back. I'll let you talk about the Dillon brothers. I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes.
All right. Here's the thing about the Dillon brothers. The Dillon brothers, they showed that their consistency is, and especially Austin in the Xfinity series and the Truck series. They do won championships at both series. He comes into the Cup series now. Granted, I think he came into the Cup series too early, which happens with a lot of drivers. Happens with a lot of people. I think that's Danica Patrick's main issue was she just came in way too early. Is having that problem right now. The reason why he just got his first Cup win for the for full-time season in 2017, and he comes back, he wins the title, or not title. He comes back and wins a race, wins Charlotte. I'm getting ahead of myself. Wins Charlotte. The dude, I'm not addressing you specifically, Nicholas, when I was talking about old school fans. But you go on Facebook, you see the old NASCAR 1971, 2003. They talk about Jimmy Johnson like he's Satan or something, and it's ridiculous. Dylan, you're talking about how, but everyone's talking about how.
I'm back.
I don't know if you're talking about Ty or Austin.
I'm back.
With Ty, I think he came in too early, as well as Austin. Austin's just now getting the success that I think he has shown in the Xfinity and Truck Series. Give Ty some time. That's a weird thing to say. Give Ty some time, but give him some time. I really do think that.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna squash this debate right now. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? I'm gonna squash this debate here, right now. Austin Dillon deserves to be a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver. There is absolutely no doubt about that. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And people in the comment, I respect your opinion. There is absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind that I'm gonna say Alex Bowman, that Austin Dillon deserves to be a Sprint Cup Series driver. He is a champion of the Xfinity Series, or nationwide at the time. Now, what do people who win the Xfinity Series championship do? They go on to the next level. What did Chase Elliott do? What did Ricky Stenhouse Jr. do? What did Chris Buescher do? Won and moved on. And there is absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, okay, we know that that spot at Richard Childress Racing was reserved.
You there? You there?
Testing, testing.
There you are. You just cut off in the middle of it, and you're like, what? But yeah, no, there's no doubt Austin Dillon's season was reserved. The dude, I mean, 2014 was extremely, extremely early for him to come in. 2013, obviously, he had a great season in the Xfinity Series. He comes in 2014 and basically does nothing in Cup. And I remember when everyone was ranting about it because everyone was saying, "Oh, the 3-car was back, 3-car's back," doing their screeching about it, which in a way was kind of ridiculous in a way. Um, um, yeah, Nicholas is kind of. You have the mentality of an old school fan, Nicholas. I'm not going to call you out on it. I'm not calling you out. I just think you take things way too personal. Like when they said Earnhardt, they're comparing him to Earnhardt. I think they were comparing particularly his way of winning Charlotte. Of course, he's driving a 3-car. Of course, they're going to compare him. Car Victory Lane was amazing to me. That's another reason why I'm openly against retiring numbers, because this is directly to you in Triple Two. I'm against retiring numbers because I like to see that legacy, or not the legacy, but I like to see that it's almost like a throwback, like a retro type thing. And to have the 3-car come back win races like that was amazing. The 24 win. 24 wins again. Me as a Jeff Gordon fan, I'm sure I'm going to get that feeling if William Byron's able to pull a win. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that happen again with the 43 car with Bubba. I'm not saying it will happen. I'd like to see it happen. It was awesome to see Eric Amarola win in the 43 car. It was cool. It's just to see the 43 car back in victory lane for the first time since 1999 with John Andretti. It was so cool to see that, and I'd like to see that happen again with both the 24 and the 43 car and the 3 car. No, and another point you brought up, Nicholas. Jimmy Johnson is the greatest of all time over Richard Petty for the simple fact that there's times are completely different between 200 wins and the amount of wins that Jimmy Johnson currently has, which I think is 70 something, maybe.
Now, my boy Nicholas Steiner, who I respect his opinions. Thank you so much for being here and talking. Wanted to see the 3-car in victory lane because the driver outraced someone, not because of fuel mileage win. Now, the fact of the matter is, those RCR cars are not capable of winning races. They're not. Ryan Newman won a race.
Fuel mileage.
I was on tires. Ryan Newman won a race on tires. Remember,
Yeah.
he stayed out, and then he's just so talented and hard to pass that no one could pass him. But the fact of the matter is, look, Austin Dillon isn't going to outrace Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. and Keselowski and Harvick and Larson and all them, because of the simple fact that those RCR cars are just slow. They're slow cars.
I think anyone who denies fuel mileage wins is ridiculous, because fuel mileage has been a factor in this motorsports for years. Whereas Formula One, IndyCar, people don't deny those guys back then. Here's the thing: a win's a win, whether you like it or not. It's still going up in the record books as a win. I don't care if you like it or not. A fuel mileage win is a deciding factor. Indianapolis is definitely going to be a fuel mileage race almost every year. I don't usually watch Indianapolis. I mean, I watch Indianapolis. I watch every race, but I'm not a fan of Indianapolis. I don't like Indianapolis. I think the race is usually kind of boring, except for last year.
I think they should take it off the. I think they should take it off the schedule.
I think they should too, but they won't because the legacy behind Indianapolis.
I mean, first and foremost, no one even goes to that race. I mean, it's embarrassing that our sport is on a stage where no one's even going to the race. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Why are we? And now they made it the last race of the regular season, trying to attract people to watch it and whatnot. It's a horrible fucking race. You're at a racetrack that is designed for open wheel cars. I mean, you're not gonna put the Cup Series 40 race cars on on a midget track or a go-kart track. You're not gonna it doesn't fit. And in Indianapolis, everyone agrees. Dale Earnhardt Jr. even tweeted about it. Everyone agrees that Indianapolis has been a horrible race. No one goes to that race. I mean, they can't give tickets away for free. No one goes to that race.
But anyway, back to my point. The reason why Jimmy Johnson, in my books, is over Ryan or over Richard Petty in the record book is because the times were completely different. You're not going to. Some drivers only have C200 wins in their career because there's 36 races in a season. If you look at some drivers, they're just not getting their 300th career starts. Let me see here. Let me do a little math here. Divide that by 36 is, I can't do mental math, so I'm doing it on a calculator right quick. 5.5. It would take 5.5 years and to win, so 5.5 years, plus winning every single race in those 5.5 years to even get close to tying Richard Petty in wins. That is the reason why Richard Petty's and Jimmy Johnson's win difference does not differentiate which one's better than the other. It would take you 5.5 years and winning every single one of those races in order to even get close, to even tie Richard Petty. Not to mention getting one more win.
Here's the deal with Richard Petty, and I actually have to get off in a few minutes, but I'll make this point and then I'll get off. Here's the deal with Richard Petty. A lot of new fans don't know the state of the sport back in the 70s and back in Richard Petty's day. Richard Petty would show up to the racetrack with a built race car, a good race car. Back in those days, there were no sponsors. People didn't have budgets to go buy cars. Cars weren't made the way they were.
True.
This day and age, you couldn't, you buy a Toyota Camry from a Toyota dealership, you get 250,000 miles out of it. That wasn't the case back in the day. So you had guys who had to build their own car. They had no sponsorships. They had to put their own money down. So you had guys who were showing up to the race car in junkyard cars that couldn't even do a lap. So there's some crazy stat out there that Richard Petty won a race lapping the field more than 20 times. Well, yeah, because he was the only car that could actually drive around the track more than 5 times without breaking down. So people don't know that Richard Petty entered a lot of races where he was one of the only cars that was actually a raceable car. You had a lot of people in those races that didn't have cars capable because of money, because there were no sponsors, because cars weren't built the way they're made today.
Not only that, but it was also like 68, 69 races in a season.
Exactly. So
you can get away with 40-something wins in one season.
He would show up to races where there were only 10. There were only 10 racers, and 8 of them didn't even have cars that were capable of starting the race.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you look at his career, as NASCAR got more competitive and more manufactured by itself, the less wins he won. I'm not taking away from him. He's still an amazing driver and should be counted as one of the greatest ever. But if you look at it, his last win came in 1984, and he never won a race all the way up until his retirement after that, which was 1992. In order to be one of the greatest, you have to be able to to adjust to what your sport's doing. As NASCAR Triple 2 has already said, Jimmy Johnson has been able to do that. Dale Earnhardt has been able to do that to an extent.
Makes a good point. I'm going to get off here at 10:20. It's 10:13. Redneck Gamers makes a good point. He said back in the day, you had to go to the dealership and buy a car and bust out a window and a roll cage. That's the fact that is what it is. Because back in those days, you wanted to run NASCAR, you had to go to a dealership, you had to buy a car, then you had to work on that car yourself, and you had to take that car Look, if you lived 1,000 miles away from the racetrack, you had to put 1,000 miles on that car to get to the racetrack. Nowadays, that's not the case. You have Toyota, you have Ford, you have Chevrolet giving these teams free cars. Then on
Not to
top of
mention
that,
they're being built. Not to
then on
mention they're
top of that,
being built in a shop specifically for that race, and only race
yeah,
maybe once or twice before they're stripped back down
then
and
on
taken
top
apart
of
again.
that, they have billion-dollar companies like Dollar General and Lowe's and FedEx giving them even more money. It is what it is. Um,
Um,
but there's an interesting topic here. Alex is claiming that there are sources saying, and this is again, check up with Alex, saying that there are sources that uh, a few sources, multiple sources, that there will be a track built in Mississippi. Now, I gotta
I've heard that.
say, where did you hear that? Because I love Mississippi. I would love to go to a race down there.
I heard it by a Mississippi news center that I happened to be on Twitter. I also saw J-Ski was posted about it before, as well as ESPN and Sports Illustrated magazine.
Now, ESPN is hashtag fake news, but we'll go with J-Ski.
Yeah,
Here's the thing. Now,
J-Ski
I
is the
had
only
made a
legitimate thing on
video.
ESPN.
I made a video a few years ago about how NASCAR wanted to build a race, a NASCAR track in New York City, specifically Long Island. But the
Nicholas, we've already
plans got
debunked that plan. We've already debunked that argument. You're wrong.
uh, let me finish what I was going to say. This Long Island track, they were trying to build a track in New York because of certain circumstances. There might have been an airport nearby, something like that, noise ordinances. You got to remember, some NASCAR tracks are in certain cities because a lot of cities have noise ordinances. So
Yes.
if you live anywhere near like the track in Dover, one of the big reasons the track at Dover doesn't have lights, and it's why we haven't seen lights at some of these tracks, is because of the simple fact that it's in a residential area. Dover is a huge city. It's in a residential area. They don't want people who aren't watching NASCAR up all night because of the sound of the NASCARs. So they don't put lights at their track. So if the race isn't done by 5 or 6 o'clock, people won't be up all night that aren't watching NASCAR because of the noise. So that's why you don't see lights at that track.
Um, that's why a lot of tracks are built in like more secluded areas. When I went to Kansas Speedway, it's off the highway. There's a shopping center nearby and a hotel, and that's about it. There's no houses for miles from Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, if anyone's
It's
ever,
outside of Kansas
if
City,
everyone's ever
Kansas,
been
but it's on.
to Pocono, it's in the middle of the sticks. I mean, there are deer walking by across the track. It is in the middle of the motherfucking sticks. But we have 3 minutes left. I think we should make our championship predictions
That's
and
what I was about to say. Yeah.
call it a night. So we'll start off with you. Who are your final four, and who wins the championship?
Ooh, my final four I had was Jimmy Johnson. Like once again, Jimmy Johnson, because you can't deny Jimmy Johnson's talent. Uh, my second prediction was going to be for the championship four was going to be Denny Hamlin. Third, Kyle Busch. And the final four in the championship four was going to be I couldn't decide between one of the two Penske cars, either Joey Logano or Brad Keselowski. My 2018 champion would be Denny Hamlin.
Danny Hamlin coming from a Chase Elliott fan. Wow.
Yes, yes, sir. I cannot deny. And plus, not to mention, I made this prediction the week after that happened. That week between. That's why when I wrote this down, I said your 2017 champion will make the final four. Oh, that's right. That's right. It wasn't the Penske car. It was Truex was the fourth driver. I was going to decide one, but it's going to be Truex, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Jimmy Johnson, and Hamlin is champion. Yes, that's that's my championship prediction for 2018. It will be um, Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. Well, that is bold. Now I got to ask you one more question. How far does Chase Elliott get?
I think he makes it the same place he made it getting out in the round of 8, going to the final four.
What is the downfall of his season? Is it just the fact that he can't win, or is it inconsistency? What is the reason
I
he doesn't
don't
get to
think
the Final Four?
I don't think he's not going to get. Like I said, I think he will win this year. I don't. I think when he wins, it'll be either early on or mid-season, mid regular season before the playoffs even get close. I don't think he's going to have. I think he's just going to have like a subpar championship, subpar playoff all the way up until his elimination, which is kind of what killed him going into going to the Final Four of this one. I think he's going to have. I think it's going to be close between Chase. I do think he'll be something similar where he has to is in a must-win situation and will finish within the top five. He's just going to get outran going to the Final Four.
All right. Now we got Redneck Gamer saying that Jimmy Johnson will be the champion. My Final Four for 2018, this is the last thing I say on this channel before I turn it off tonight. Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch. I do not think Martin Truex Jr. returns back to Homestead Miami being in the Final Four again.
Wow.
Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Jimmy Johnson. I truly, really feel like Kevin Harvick is just too good a driver. I think Truex misses it. I think Kyle Larson misses it, and that's bold because I really think Kyle Larson is going to be driving his ass off. But I truly believe Kyle Larson's downfall will be what Kyle Larson's downfall has been his whole career. The fact that Chip Ganassi Racing cannot supply the necessary means to have a championship team. I truly believe that. Um, and I
Now,
think
before you
that
get off,
I think
we should
Brad Keselowski will be the champion.
before we get off here, let's shout out each other's Twitters here. That way, we could everyone knows how to reach out to us. We'll let you guys know on Twitter when the next 3Y podcast will be. So make sure you follow both of us. NASCAR 222 underscore for him. Myself is Brent underscore Cox underscore 3. Go follow us both on Twitter. We'll be updating you regularly, as well as we will be posting about racing news on there and our opinions on certain stuff. So make sure you guys leave a follow on both of those. Hopefully we'll get back on the main 3Y podcast channel next time. Hopefully, if we get all the kinks fixed out.
Give me
But
one.
thank
Give
you.
me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Okay, guys, for watching. This has been 3Y Podcast Season 2, Episode 1, the season beginner. I think it's been a pretty good episode, pretty productive. I can't wait to see how the majority of Season 2 goes out. Hopefully we get further than we did in Season 1, and hopefully we get a full season in on this one. So anything else you want to add in 222 before we head out? Oh, that's right, you said it's going to be there for a second. Just fill it in. I'll just fill in the gap for a minute. Yeah, man. Anybody have any closing thoughts or anything like
Can
that
y'all hear me?
before? Yeah, we hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay. Now, before we go, there has been some great people in this chat. I gotta give a shout out to Redneck Gamers. Gotta give a shout out to Nicholas Steiner. Gotta give a shout out to my boy Alex. Redneck Gamers, Nicholas Steiner, Alex. Let's see who else. Who else was on here? You guys are the troopers of this channel.
Oh
Redneck
yeah.
Gamers, Nicholas Steiner, Mr. Skeleton 350, Alex, Astroth. Thank y'all for leaving comments down below. Thank y'all for the debate. We will be back. And again, what we want to do on this channel as well is have you guys join us on the Hangout. So if any of you guys want to join the next stream, definitely send me a message on Twitter at NASCAR222 underscore, and we will add your email and you guys can be on the stream with us. So with that being said, shout out to Redneck Gamers, Nicholas Steiner, Alex, Mr. Skeleton, Astroth, and we will see you next time in Victory Lane.
Are we off?